Kimberly Olson here back for another episode of the Gold Digger Girl podcast. I'm so excited to bring you today one of my business besties, Susanne Goldstein. This woman is a woman after my own heart because I believe that we can create real lasting change in our lifetimes. I truly do. And I know that she is leading from the front. And I just can't wait for you guys to meet her, hear her wisdom, be inspired today. And I'm just grateful for this time with her because we're both very busy and it took us a minute to make this happen, and this is just pure magic. So Susanne, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Kimberly. I'm so thrilled and happy to be here. It's just a little bit about me so your people know who they're talking to.
Yes.
So my name is Susanne Goldstein. I run a brand called DAREHuman. And it is my fullest, deepest belief that every single one of the 8 billion people on the planet can be a force for good in their life. And what happens when they are is they then have the capacity to be a force for good in the world. And so everything that I do is about championing change making and what it looks like for people to say, I'm raising my hand and I'm going to create massive impact and income at the same time. These two don't need to be separate. In the world of feminine energetics, in the world of balanced energetics, we get to play in the both. And so I really am all about creating communities and coaching in collaborative environments where women can come together and men who understand feminine energetics energetics can join them.
Yes.
Was a mouthful. And so that's who I am. So happy to be here.
Oh my gosh. So you also, because I got a chance to meet you in person, you are quite the storyteller as well. So I didn't prep you on this, but I would love, do you mind sharing your story? Your life. It's so interesting to me. And I also love that you have just created you blazed your own trail. Like you live life on your own terms, but you also just kind of did that from the onset. So tell us about you went to college and you got in, started your career. Can you share your story of how you are today?
Absolutely. So I have a kind of a weird background. First of all, I had a difficult childhood. It was not easy. I went through a lot of trauma and a lot of difficulty. And my waking up process really started when I was 27. But I realize now looking back, I was actually given my mission on this earth when I was 5. Like I knew it. And then the universe kept giving me stuff to deal with, to see and test me, to see if I was really ready to lead this whole movement and this mission. But it started off where my folks really wanted me to go to engineering school and I wanted to be an artist. And so I went to Cornell University to study engineering, but it turns out at the same time, I got a degree in theater and film because for me, these two things had to work together because I really believe that storytelling, technology, and personal growth is how we change the world, emotional intelligence, all that stuff. So I got my first job out of university by sitting in the lobby of the National Theatre of Great Britain for 8 straight days until someone would listen to me. I wanted to work there. I knew no one. I say to people these days, please don't do this. This was the 1980s. And at that time, you could do crazy things like go and sit. And every day I would go back and I'd befriend the people behind the desk until they finally introduced me to someone who might be able to help me. And I got an incredible job there. They needed someone who needed theater, and they needed someone who knew mechanical drafting. And I became that person and was hired. And that's how my career started. And what I realized at that time is what I was doing is carrying a paintbrush. And so I carry a paintbrush, an imaginary paintbrush, everywhere I go. I carry an imaginary bucket of paint. And when there's something I want to try, somebody I want to meet, something I want to do, I literally, in my mind and in my visualization, I take out this bucket of paint and a paintbrush. I paint a doorway and I make sure to paint the knob. And I turn the knob and I open that doorway and I call it creating opportunities for lucky things to happen. And my whole life has been about painting doors and creating opportunities for lucky things to happen. And so I went from there into the film industry in London, and I got that job by writing personalized letters to every person in the film industry I wanted to meet. I would go out back to Blockbuster days, rent a video, watch it, give them a personalized letter with a portion of it that said, I love this movie, especially the part when. And I would say that 90% of them wrote back to me. And one of them was John Schlesinger, the Academy Award winning director of Midnight Cowboy and Sunday Bloody Sunday. And I ended up going to meet him when they asked me to come in, and he was doing a movie about piano. And I sat down and played Beethoven for him, and he's like, "You're hired." And so like I have been creating these weird opportunities my whole life. And I realized I had this gift for co-creating with the universe. And I was like, what is this? And why are people so fascinated? Why can't everybody do this? So I started breaking it down and teaching it to people. What I realized is that if people are focused on the world as they're co-creating, humanity, sustainability, I believe in people, planet, and profit in that order, that if we focus our ability to create and manifest on making our world a better place, it works for everyone. And so that's the background. I got into movie making. I've produced my first Hollywood movie at 27 at Disney. I then got into the .com world before the .com world was really a thing. And I became one of the early architects on the web. And from that, I started coaching and consulting because everybody wanted to build a business. I had produced movies. I'd say, who do you want to be when you grow up? And they'd say, we don't know. And so I'd help them with marketing plans and strategy plans and how to go to market. And I brought a ton of first round companies, OpenTable, Evite, ended up working with Microsoft as they decided to go from being an application company to being an internet company. I was their person. And so,
that's so cool.
It's just been this crazy career, and it's like multifaceted and multi-pronged and multi-fun. And I just like constantly am grateful to the universe for giving me this gift.
Oh my gosh, you're such a unique human because you're not even top 1%. You're like top 0.00001%, meaning you're incredible, but you've also tapped into how we can be in this world. How can we experience life? How we can look at it with open eyes, and kind of like a little kid who, the first time they go into, a candy shop where they're just like my children, and they're just like, eyes are open. They're just looking around, and it's like, oh, what do I want to grab first? It's like, it can be that. And, I think most of us are hustling. It's a big hustle culture. And I know that because I'm an achiever archetype. It's very futuristic and go, kind of masculine energy. And we all are we're lined up saying, we don't want that anymore. Like my ladies don't want that anymore, right, guys? Like they are burned out. They don't even know what they want because they're so busy grinding it out that they don't even get quiet enough to say, what do I want? So with this shift into us realizing that it is feminine, and being able to, like you said, women can change the world, and we both believe that. So will you share what you are doing with the work that you're doing in your programs and really calling women to rise up so that we can change this world in our lifetime? I'm telling you, I believe we can. Like, I know my granddaughters and my great granddaughters, one day they're going to be like, my great grandma was a pioneer when it came to changing this world. And you're one of those women too. So what would you say to those listening of like, okay, all right, like, is this real? Can I be a part of this change? Let's talk about that change.
Oh my gosh. So this could be a 10-hour conversation, just so you know. And I'm going to try to slow down because I was going fast because I knew we didn't have a lot of time. Okay. But I think that women have physiologically a different brain than men. We have more connections across the corpus callosum. Those are the thing that connects the two hemispheres. So we can actually be in our creative space and in our logical space at the same time. It's a gift that we have as women. But without understanding the true matrix we live in, the paradigm that we live in, where this world had been built for men by men. But imagine if we built a parallel universe, and in this parallel universe, women invented business. If we invented business, this is just a question for you. What do you think the first thing that we would do if we invented business in a different way from men?
Well, like you said, we would put people first.
We put people first, which means, like, I think if women invented business, if you had your moon cycle, you got the day off, period. Pun intended. I mean, you would get that day off because no one should be making big business decisions on that day. And yet we've had to ignore our hormones. We've had to ignore our feelings, our pain, etc., to put on the Betty business bow and make it in a man's world. So I truly believe that we have an opportunity to reinvent how business is done. And I call it the future of business is female. And what I mean by that is that we can gather as women and include men in the journey. This is not an anti-man campaign. This is a balanced masculine feminine energy campaign. And the idea is, if you start thinking about business, you start thinking about how this world operates. We spend 80% of our waking hours at work. What if work was places where you could express yourself? You could bring your difference to the table without worrying about it. You can bring your values to the table without worrying about it. That you're treated like a human being first and a cog in the wheel third. Right now, we treat humans like a cog in the wheel. And I watch the Matrix movies are something that I live by. They really speak to my version of what reality is and what reality could be. And in that movie, humans are made into a battery. And we're just being used for creation. I call it forced production. And we've all been convinced if we're not producing, we're not valuable. If we're not making money, we're not valuable. If we don't do something, we're not valuable. So I have so many women I coach that at night they're watching TV with their kids or they're helping their kids with their homework, but they got the phone in the hand and they're still answering stuff or liking stuff on social media because they cannot stop doing, even if they want to. So they think that stopping doing is like, okay, I'm going to go to a spa. But that's not feminine energy. Feminine energy is being in the receiving. Feminine energy is being in being and exploring and flowing, but that doesn't happen very much. So I believe that all the work that I do, that you do, that the work that we as women are doing is we're bringing a different option to the table. And there are men who are interested too, because they're like, I'm burned out too. I felt the pressure too. So what if we change it all? And so part of the work that I do with entrepreneurial women specifically is I have an ascension journey for business maturity levels to take people through, like, how do you become her, the woman who shows up for herself? How do you ignite her? How do you ignite that passion, that flame inside of you, so your purpose and your passion meet your ability to get shit done and make money? And then how do you elevate her? How do you grow and scale beyond so you can make the money you desire but have the impact at the same time? They're not separate in my world. And so hopefully that gives a sense for people of the kind of world that we're trying to build.
Yeah, and it's a narrative, and it's a new narrative. And I forgot, Elise was saying something in the car. Oh, she said she went to her first wedding last week. My good friend got married and she goes, Mom, she's 7. She goes, Mom, it wasn't like what I thought it was. I go, what did you think a wedding was? And she goes, I thought it was in the beach and you went under the arch. And, and what did she say? There was only a few people there. And I said, do you know that you got that idea in your head from TV and movies? I said, it's called programming. So it's programming your mind. I go, I want you to realize that everything you see on TV and movies, you get to go in the real world and see what it really is. So don't think that's what it is. And I was like, wow. Like, at 7 years old, this child is already programmed. She already thinks this is the world and the way it is. It's like we're up against that from like an early age. And you made me think of that, of like the world we get to create. We get to create what it is. It doesn't have to be what it has been. We've just seen in the last 3 years how you can change an entire society on their beliefs on things, right? Like, the narrative is really strong. And so it's our ability and opportunity to say, let's collaborate here and let's create a new narrative. So with the impact and the income. So I will say, my audience, I attract beginner entrepreneurs. I attract the ones that maybe came in through network marketing, direct sales, and their first taste of it. And they're like, I want more. Like, I want to coach. I want to get in the service-based industry. So these ladies are coming from a place of maybe wanting to start making enough money online to quit their job and get off the rat race, right? Or they're at home and they want to contribute. What would you say to those that feel so, like you said, that they're not valuable because they're not making money yet, because they put so much pressure on themselves that I feel like they push it away? How can they shift into impact? And I have chills because you know what I did when I started? All I did was think about impact, meaning it was like, how can I serve? How can I serve? How can I offer value? How can I help people? And it worked. Like, I wasn't like, how do I make money? Do you know what I mean? So I just did it. I just kind of stumbled into it. But what would you say to those that are with us that are like, I want to make money. I want the money. How did they shift into putting that over here and starting with the impact piece?
So again, part of our patriarchal paradigm is that if you make money, then you can retire, then you can give to charity. If you make money, then you have enough to give to your kids in legacy, and then you can retire and enjoy yourself. This new paradigm is I can do it all at the same time. Time collapses and time expands. We know that, right?
Yeah.
So what if you could collapse time and say, I can have it all at the same time? So the rewiring is, in my impact, I create opportunities for income by living my impact. So I don't sell how to make money. That's not any part of my programming. Women come into my world because they desire to build a business that has a bottom line that is more than just money. It has a social impact component to it. Many of the people in my world, their businesses are actually social entrepreneurship, social enterprises. So what I would say to people who are just starting is twofold. One, this doesn't happen fast, right? There are a couple people who blow up and they have their viral sensations and they make a ton of money really fast. But this is a slow and steady game, right? And it's kind of like the stock market, right? It's constantly going upward, but it has moments that it bounces down. And we have to be able to hold the energy in the moments that we're not getting what we desire. And what that means is energy is just emotions are energy in motion. We've got to manage our emotions and raise our emotional intelligence. And when we feel joy, when we feel excitement, and this is why people promote celebrating so much, is to create that joy and excitement. When you feel that, you lock in that feeling, like that vibration in your body, and you say, this is an anchor. I'm placing this as an anchor in my life. And next time I feel down, I'm going to remember that I know that feeling. I might not be able to create it right now, but I know it exists. So what if I can raise myself to that level? And so if you start living service, if you start living your message for the world, the people who desire to hear that message will find you because you're living it so authentically. But what happens if we look at other people and we're like, she's successful saying these things, I'm going to go say these things and hope it's going to make my success. But that's not how it works. You got to find your message. And so I would say, hold steady, be consistent. When I say consistent, I do not mean posting every day. You get to do your own schedule of whatever you do. What I mean by consistency is your energy. Holding yourself to that energetic vibration of, I believe this is possible for me, even when it feels yucky. And keep going, because this is a long game. Entrepreneurship, to me, is the biggest personal development game you will ever play in your entire life. True. Every day is a challenge to your personal status in life. And you've got to be able to hold it, because if you don't have the energetic ability and the emotional intelligence to hold it, you're going to want to quit every day.
So really what I'm hearing you say, a big part of this is true to the core of your being, belief in yourself. Because people will say, well, she can do it. Why not me? Why isn't it working for me? Or even they'll get into our coaching programs and it appears that they have everything on social, even their brand dialed in, and it's the work you do, and it's not happening for them. I think it comes down to belief. I think there's this underlying belief that they're not worthy, they're not good enough, they can't have success, or they're afraid of success. I've also discovered that with the ladies. Well, yeah. What if the floodgates open? I can't handle it, right? So would you say that you notice that as well? Does it come down to belief, or is it holding steady with, like you said, those anchoring to those patterns on that journey? What would you say it comes down to?
I love this question. So I think it's twofold. The first piece is that we often have on, I just put on a pair of glasses. We often have victim lenses on, right? So the first piece of this in general is just switching out your glasses. Taking off the glasses that are the victim lenses, like the world is against me. Everything everyone does is against me. Everything that my family does, my brother does, my this does, my that does, the people don't buy, they don't comment on my stuff. All of it is when we're in victim mode. So if you switch out victim mode and you put on a different pair of glasses and you say, how is this for me? What am I learning from this moment? I think that's the first activated piece. And then I think the second piece of it is that most of us teach manifestation. Like if you study the law of attraction with traditional people, they say align your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions, right? Align your thoughts. I think this is going to happen. I feel my thoughts are going to happen. And then I'm going to take right action, aligned action with those thoughts and those feelings. The problem is most people don't teach manifestation with belief at the top. So I call it the beliefment cycle, because you got to believe first. Then you have thoughts that align with that belief. Then you have feelings that align with those thoughts and that belief. And then you take action that's aligned with those feelings, those thoughts, and those beliefs. And that is the cycle of beliefment. And that's how we manifest.
Oh, so good. I was doing some teaching on manifestation the first quarter, and it really helped to study it, implement all of it. And I had never heard it explained that way. So it's golden because you're Goldstein, but it's golden because
and you're the golden
nuggets. You're the golden nuggets. But you gotta think of it this way. What's your North Star? So here's the example. We worked with a business coach last year. She helps companies scale up. And she said, every time you're making a hiring or a firing decision, or you have to go back to your core values as a company. What are those? And I was like, she's like, no, you got to figure that out. And I interviewed a lady yesterday that she said before she launched her company, and it's wildly successful, she goes, we figured out our core values, courage, impact, and integrity. And she goes, we built everything around that. And I'm like, no wonder they blew. And it's like she's attracting those people who have similar values.
Exactly.
So it's the same thing. What's your North Star? What do you believe in yourself? And everything will go from that. And if you're not feeling confident in believing yourself, it's like you said, that emotional intelligence to say, this feeling will pass. Like it is that up and down. But if you watch that chart you mapped out, you're still going upwards.
That's right.
It's like going up a mountain, right? Like you don't just go straight up. It's like that. So I love that. So, because I feel when I've talked to you that out of all the people I've ever met in my life, I feel like you do have what's the word for it? Just so much hope and joyful expectation of what this world can be. Like you really do. So when you talked about the matrix and this kind of other universe that we can create, what do you see possible in our lifetime for changing humanity?
Well, I think one of the things that's interesting about this era in 2023 is that before things change, we often see an eruption of civil unrest. And we're seeing that, especially here in the US and around the world, a rise in authoritarianism and, people being brainwashed by certain things. And we're seeing a lot of stuff happen. And I'm the kind of person that when stuff like this happens, I need to go investigate. So in 2016, after our last president was elected, 2016, when Mr. Trump was elected president, I was running a diversity, equity, and inclusion consulting firm. And I said to the business owner who had brought me in to help her, I'm this white, Ivy League educated CEO, Jewish woman from this D&I company, and I know nothing about white rural America. I feel like I need to go do a listening tour. Are you okay if I take some time to do that? And she's like, sure. So I crowdfunded $45,000 because I'm a former filmmaker. I hired a film crew and I went to rural Alabama. And what I found there was so fascinating to me that I basically embedded in and out of there for 3 years. And I started bringing people from rural Alabama to Boston and people from Boston to rural Alabama to see what it was like to walk in each other's shoes. So I think what you learn from things like this is not only how different we are, you see a couple of similarities, but more importantly, you get to practice your empathy. You get to put aside your judgment and say, okay, how can I get to know someone? How can I open my curiosity? How can I look at the world differently so that I am more expansive? I'm less judgmental, right? So the first thing we have to do is get curious about each other as humans. People, planet, profit. That's my world, right? So I want to understand people because people are the ones who are creating the systems and structures that are hurting certain other people. So we got to understand what motivates and demotivates people. We have to understand how they're struggling where they are on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, because the people who are at a certain needs level are going to always be influenced by whether their needs are being met or not. So what if we can start raising the game? What if we can start helping people take off those victim glasses and start seeing that their needs are being met? And if they're not, let's support them in some way. Right? But we can do that. We can do that through our own giving. We can do that through our own support. We can build businesses that are for profit, but still do great things in the world. I know people, my dad was the first social entrepreneur I ever met, even though he would never call himself that. And it's because he had a company that built water desalination plants around the world. And where water is like gold now, right? Water is so difficult a situation in our world. He built plants that turn dirty, yucky water into drinkable water. He had a company that was publicly traded, that made lots of money, that did a good thing in the world. Now, you don't have to go build water plants, but if you live in a neighborhood and you see that there's a lot of older adults walking around your neighborhood and it's hot out, they don't have a bench to rest on, and you decide, I'm going to get the neighbors together and we're going to put a bench in the neighborhood so this older adults have a place to rest. That can be your one thing. That makes a change in the world. And it's so simple, right? But if you also want to go save every manatee on the planet, you can do that. So we all get to pick this one thing. So there's no one direction we go, but everybody's activated at a place that is beyond self. So I call it turning other-centered instead of I-centered. And I think that's how we create change in the world.
Yeah. And you know what, too, I think, and I've caught myself this because there's been many times where I'm like, I'm getting into politics because things happen. And then I say, no, that's not what you're choosing to fight for. You're building women. So that's what you're doing. And so I think people get really upset about things and they want to do all the things and then they do nothing. And I think we just need to ask, like, maybe your thing is, like I implemented a recycling program my freshman year of college. I was like, I went to a business school. Do you know how many Wall Street journals there were? It was insane. And so I was like, fine, I'll do it. And that could be your thing, like what is your thing? And if we all do that, we're actually all doing things versus getting frustrated. And they say the best businesses and change in the world is when you see an issue and you get fired up about it. Like you're just like angry. Take that anger and turn it into fuel to motivate you to do something about it. And that's how you know your thing. That's what I think, at least. So like, what's your thing? Sit with that of like, what fucks you up? Because we can choose what we want to stand for. And you can't stand for everything, but if you stand for one thing and it's really clear what that is, others will also rally around you for that.
Yeah. I call this the one thing campaign. And that's what we promote. It's like, pick your one thing. If every one of the 8 billion people on the planet picked their one thing, the world would change. Even if half of the 8 billion people in the world pick their one thing, the world would change. Right? So it's turning the focus from I-centered, which is that victim mentality, to other-centered, meaning, why am I doing this for the world? How can I do this for the world? So I have women who teach spirituality and how to make money. But on the side, why are they doing it? Because one of my clients has been a kindergarten teacher, and she saw kids come to school without being fed. She saw kids come to school having watched their parents do horrible things, right? She's like, what if we could just educate more women? What if we can just put more money in the pockets of women so that they can really help their children? That is a way that motivates her to build a side hustle business. That is, how do we support kids? Whether it's a for-profit or nonprofit, it's always in her heart as she's building. So your one thing doesn't have to be your business, but when it is, like mine is, my one thing is to get people to find their one thing, to get them to turn to be other-centered, to get them to put people, planet, and then profit in order. That's my one thing. And so as I help people build businesses, as I help celebrities use their platform for good, all of the things I do are focused on helping people activate in this human lifetime.
You're such a gift to this world. You're such a gift for this world.
Thank you.
You're amazing. You really are. You're amazing. I'm honored to be your friend.
Oh, I feel the same.
Right beside you and like slay and like go create and change and make a difference. So I'm sure my people are going to want to like find out more what you got going. And I will say too, like you are multi-dimensional, like it's so interesting, engaging for me to follow the things you're doing on social. But where should they find you, and how can they work with you if there's anyone listening that's like, oh my gosh, she's speaking my language, I want to work with her?
Oh gosh, thank you. I appreciate that. The best way to find me is on Instagram, which is follow Susanne, FOLLOWSUSANNE. And that's probably the easiest way because you can DM me from there. You can also follow me, Susanne Goldstein, on Facebook. I'm very active on Facebook. I've got a great community there. We have 2 communities that we run. Power, POWHER, is for female entrepreneurs who want to expand their business and use the concept of balanced energetic ascension to build businesses that are going to make the world a better place. So that's my free power group, and we do free trainings in there. On Mondays, I do a thing called Power Moves. So that's amazing. And then if you want to come into, I'm like a master of masterminds. It's my deepest sweet spot, because my masterminds are true masterminds. So I coach everybody live in front of everybody else. So it's semi-private coaching. And then everybody gets a chance, if they want to add to the equation. So say I was coaching you in one of my masterminds, Kimberly, you would bring an issue to the table. I would coach you, and then I would ask who else in the group wanted to give you some thoughts and feedback. So it's true masterminding. So it's my favorite place. My 2 active masterminds right now are Ignite Her and Elevate Her. And they're really amazing. And if you want to do something kind of like less of a commitment, I have a program called Lead Her. It meets twice a month, and it's literally leadership lessons for how to lead for the future, how to lead yourself as a woman for where we're going.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. That's great. There's a lot of different things you guys can plug into. That's fabulous. Cool. Well, thank you from the bottom of my heart for spending time with me and my ladies today. It was just very valuable. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me, and I just adore our friendship. I'm grateful.
Me too. Awesome. And you guys, thanks for hanging with us. Appreciate you. And as always, until next time, get lit in your business and set your soul on fire. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.